Hey everybody, what's happening? It's Steven.
And Spencer.
Today we are bringing you a presentation called What is Normal? And we want you first to know that as you go through high school, there are certain things that are going to be normal that everybody experiences. And we also want you to know that uniqueness and who you are and your individuality is extremely important. But today we want to talk about what is normal and the things, 4 topics or 4 key things that every single high school student will go through over the years.
So first and foremost, guys, since this would typically be the first class we had with you, we wanted to kind of share a little bit about ourselves. We usually give time in the first class for the students to ask us questions about ourselves to get to know me and Steven a little better. So what we did was we created this little Venn diagram here to kind of show what the things we have in common and some of our differences as well. So obviously, first we'll start with what we have in common. Obviously, as you know, we both have beards.
Mine's better.
He keeps thinking that. Second thing is, we are both in agreement that Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time, and there's no arguing that.
That's 100% true.
Yep. Third thing on there is we both really like to play fantasy football. We play it every year. I myself am in 4 different leagues, so...
but I'm not any good at it.
I'm not great, but it's enjoyable. Next thing on the list is our favorite fast food restaurant is In-N-Out. Both really like those cheeseburgers. Our favorite season is actually fall. For kind of different reasons, but it's the same season. My reason is football starts in the fall. So I love that. Football is my favorite sport. For Steven, his favorite sport is baseball, and that's when the baseball playoffs are and the World Series is. So we both love fall. Next thing on there is we're both Team iPhone. Always have been, always will be. I've had the iPhone since the very first one. And the last thing there for the similarities is we both like Tupac, and again, believe he's the greatest of all time. No debate.
None. Absolutely.
And we'll go quickly through some of our differences here. Again, like I said, my favorite sport is football, while Steven's is baseball. Steven likes football, and I like baseball, but it's not my favorite. Favorite ice cream? I'm a cookies and cream kind of guy. Steven likes the more chocolate chip cookie dough. I don't have any children myself, but Steven has 2 and actually 1 daughter on the way.
Yeah.
My favorite color is green, while Steven's is blue. I went to Argonaut. That's not why my favorite color is green, but I did go to Argonaut, and I do love green.
I did go to Argonaut.
Yeah.
But, unfortunately, my favorite color is blue.
And last but not least, guys, my favorite soda is Mountain Dew Co-Red, while Steven's just regular Coca-Cola. We also wanted to kind of put this slide up to kind of show you guys that although we do have a lot of things that we differ, we're the same in a lot of ways too. We have a lot of similarities, and we think that's kind of important to find that, especially with people that you may think, oh, I wouldn't hang out with that person normally, but then you may get to know them, give it a shot, get to know them, and you might find you have a lot of things that are similar.
Absolutely, and that's where that uniqueness kind of comes into play and is really kind of a cool thing. You're your own person, but we've got a lot more than that in common, and so...
Oh, yeah.
Well, like I said, we want to kind of talk about what is normal for high schoolers that everybody's going to kind of go through, and so we're going to talk about 4 things. The first one is going to be some of the physical changes that you go through. We're going to talk about the emotional changes, the mental changes, and the social changes. These are the 4 kind of common areas that everybody experiences changes. These are sometimes advanced or enhanced during middle school and high school, and so we just want you to know that not all of these apply to every single person at the same time, as you will go through these changes at varying times, as we're going to see here in just a minute.
So first up, I'm going to talk about the physical changes you'll go through. Obviously, there's changes in hormones. For teenagers, you're kind of feeling, your hormones are kind of going crazy right now. Your emotions are kind of intense. You're going to feel like some of the highest highs and some of the lowest lows, and that could happen all in one day, just because your body is changing a lot right now.
Yeah, it might even happen like within an hour or a few minutes, right?
Exactly, for sure.
Kind of crazy.
Next is increase in height and weight, and this happens a lot during teenage years. For some people, it happens a lot sooner. For others, it happens a little later in life. So it's important to remember that that kind of stuff doesn't have a blueprint. It just happens when your body's ready for it to happen. Next thing there is developing body hair. It's like as you get older, you start developing more body hair. For some of us, a lot more facial hair.
A lot more.
Yeah. Next on the list is an increase in body odor. We see this is again another thing that's very common, and it happens to all teenagers, which is why we suggest and implore you wear deodorant every day, guys.
Highly encouraged.
The next thing is your voice changes. For young men, your voice tends to get a little deeper as you get older. You do have to go through that weird phase where it's kind of scratchy and sometimes you get that high pitched note. But trust me, that does go away. You get through that.
Those things all happen. And now we want to talk about some of the emotional changes that can happen. As Spencer mentioned, things can happen relatively quickly. Your emotions can change minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day. So it's really important that you understand that there's nothing that says, as like Spencer said, like there's no blueprint. There's like each day is going to be different and it can change very rapidly. So just be aware of that when you're hanging out with your friends or you're being in class, whatever it might be. Just remember that some of those emotions can change, and that's natural and that's normal for you guys. Your feelings become more intense. Those things that you like and the things that you dislike might become more intense, whether it is sports or maybe it's your ability to argue with who the greatest of all time might be. Also, risk-taking. Risk-taking is something that happens. We begin to experiment with things and who we're hanging out with and the things that we're doing. So those are all part of this emotional involvement and evolving in this process of who you are and kind of like your social group, which we'll get into here in a minute. But also like your impulsive behaviors. Like for me, I know I can be an impulsive person. I go to the store and I don't really need that candy bar, or I don't need those pair of shoes or whatever it might be, but I'll just do it. I do that now, so it's definitely normal as you're going through middle school and high school, especially as freshmen and sophomore. These impulses, they begin to happen more frequently, and so just understand that that's pretty normal as well. Mm-hmm. And the last one is changing the way you express your feelings, and so this can become really important for you. You may not have known in the years past how you wanted to express things, and so now you do this in a more responsible manner, or maybe you don't. You just let it go, and sometimes that's okay.
Yeah,
right. Like
for sure.
Knowing who you're with and having a good, close circle of friends, being able to express those feelings is super important. And like we said, your emotions change on the daily, maybe hour by hour, and expressing them will do that as well.
So next up, guys, we'll talk about the mental changes. The first one is more abstract thinking. You're starting to think for yourself. You know, when you're younger, you kind of just go along. Most kids will go along with like what their parents think and believe, whether it's religious-wise or spiritually or just about the world in general. But as you get older, your brain starts to develop more. You start to think for yourself and develop your own kind of thought processes and the way you feel about things in the world around you. You're using more logic and reason in your decision making. We do have a video we'll be showing you guys here in a couple class periods that's about decision making and things like that. But as you get older and as your brain starts to develop more, you start to use more logic when you're making decisions. Whereas when you're young, you kind of just make rash decisions. Like, I mean, think about a toddler who doesn't think about it and just kind of walks off the couch. You know, like they didn't think about the consequences of, hey, they might fall on their face and get really hurt. You know.
My son just did that.
Yeah, not surprising. But so as you're getting older, guys, you're starting to think more about the decisions you're making and how they could affect your life or even your safety. Again, like I kind of mentioned earlier, you're developing your own beliefs. So you're starting to develop what you believe in and how you feel about things. You're starting to question your ability more often. So, you know, what can you do? What are your limits? What aren't your limits? You know, how far can you take it as far as school goes or sports go? Or if you're into like drama, how far that could go, you know, things like that. So you're starting to question your abilities a little bit more. And then lastly on here, you have the ability to become more introspective in yourself. So those are like the mental changes you'll go through, and I'll let Stephen go through the social changes next.
And so when it comes to these social changes, it's really important, and I think maybe through high school is probably some of the biggest social changes we'll go through. You'll continue to go through changes as you mature and go into college and become, you know, young adults, and even later in life, sometimes this changes, and that's okay. But right now, we know that your social life is going to change dramatically, and as we bring this video to you, we know your social life has changed. All of these have kind of changed dramatically based on the COVID-19. And so we want you to know that when we're here for you, but we also have experienced some similar things when it comes to doing distance learning and making these videos and working, that we're here for you. And so when it comes to the social aspect, there's sort of a different level of social and cultural identity. So depending on your beliefs or who you hang out with or whatever cultural relevance you have in your life, those things change and they become either more important or less important. And sometimes they stay the same, but generally they're going to either increase or decrease. But then, this is probably one that is, at least to me, was the most significant, and that was the peer influence increasing. I had some really good friends, and they obviously made some good decisions. Some of them made some bad decisions, which means that I did the same thing. But those influences just continue to increase, and they will do that through the next couple of years. Then we have learn to manage your relationships, not just your friendship, but also romantic relationships. And those are kind of pivotal when it comes to middle school and high school. So we want you to know that these are sort of normal, how you're managing these, and you will continue to mature and develop the way that you handle these as you get older. And then the big one, I think, is seeking more responsibility. For some of you, it could be getting a driver's license, which is a huge responsibility. Some of you, it could be getting a job. Some of it could be being the captain on a sports team. Whatever it might be, or becoming a teacher's assistant, just kind of getting that responsibility, not just in school, but family as well, and even amongst your friends. And the final one is looking for new experiences. This is big when it comes to your social aspect. There are a lot of this connects with your peer influence. Who are you going to do things with? Where are you going to do them? How are you going to do them? All that sort of stuff comes into play. So these are, as we mentioned, kind of the 4 basic ways, the physical, emotional, mental, and social ways that all of you will go through a change that is normal.
Yeah. So to kind of wrap it up, guys, we want you to remember that we call this presentation of this class, what is normal, but normal is a subjective thing. What's normal for me may not be normal for you, and vice versa.
Absolutely.
So just remember that, embrace your uniqueness, guys. It's a beautiful thing to be unique. Understand your uniqueness, and just kind of learn to love yourself, Learn to be comfortable in your own skin, so to speak.
And real quick, Spence, typically when we're in class, we do kind of a group activity. You want to explain a little bit of that?
So usually what we'll do is we break you guys up into 4 different groups, and you each get one of the topics we just went over, those 4 topics. And so what we do is we let you guys create a big poster of however you want. You could draw it, you could create a list, whatever. It's kind of up to you and your creative personalities. And we always think that's pretty cool because we always get a lot of different ones. And some of them are pretty funny, right?
Yeah, they are. I've gotten some wild ones and had to get teacher permission. And but one thing also too that we do when we're in class is when we break you into groups, we have you do a couple different assessments, whether it's getting in order by height or hair color or eye color or wingspan, whatever it might be, birth date. We do that to show you that not everything is the same. How boring would our world be if we didn't have a bunch of individuals and people being unique with who they are?
Yeah, most definitely, guys. So like we said, those 4 areas that we talked about are areas that every teenager is going to experience changes, and that is what can be considered normal for a teenager. Now, at what rate those things happen, differ from person to person. But as always, guys, if you have any questions for us, please give us a phone call. Like Steven said earlier, we are here to help you guys. We love to help you guys. Our phone number is 209-257-1980. List for my extension, Spencer Dutchke, or Steven's at Stephen Hartman. Also, if you have some time, check out our YouTube page, Nexus Youth and Family Services. And as always, guys, stay healthy and stay safe.